Today, you're getting the news you probably didn't want to hear. The non-confidence vote did not go through yesterday. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. Let's break this down here. So if we look at the current polling data, we can see Conservatives still dominating. Liberals 24%, NDP right on their heels. Now, why didn't they win that non-confidence vote for the carbon tax election to kick Justin Trudeau out of power? Yeas, 116, that's basically all Conservatives. Nays is, well, let's break that down. And then paired. Now, paired, I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but paired is if we look at it here, we open this up. Whenever there's a liberal who has like the Hershey squirts and can't come into work, then they have to get paired with someone from another opposing party, and then basically they both don't vote, so it equalizes it out. I believe that's how that works. So there's 4 liberals with the Hershey squirts. So two Conservatives and 2 Blocs had to take one for the team there. But of everyone who voted, yay, we can just look through here, and it's just a big, solid line of Conservatives. No surprise they're there. Conservatives are trying very hard to fight for Canadians. And spoiler, if we go to nay, obviously a bunch of Liberals, but there's also complete NDP, Bloc. This is just disgusting. And Green Party. So if we go by political affiliation, you can see it right here. Liberals, 150 nays. Bloc 28 nays, NDP 23, Independent 1 nay, and Green Party 2 nays. So there's only one other person who voted yes, and that is one independent. That is this guy here, Kevin Vuong. So yeah, thanks for the vote, Kevin. And everyone else can buzz right off. I would expect the Green Party to vote in favor of a carbon tax if the carbon tax was implemented in a way where it actually did something for the environment, unlike what it is today, which just does nothing and takes money from us and just makes these liberals rich. But so sadly, that's the results of that. We just got to keep pushing forward here. Pierre tried. On to the bulk of this episode, though, we've got Kevin O'Leary, who's on this talk show here, ripping Justin Trudeau, just ripping him 6 ways from Sunday into next week. It is a glorious thing. It's just what we need in this moment with the non-confidence vote getting shut down.
What people are calling Orwellian online harm bills, courtesy of Justin Trudeau, with the Canadian Prime Minister backing imprisoning people for life over speech crimes and social media safety crackdown. The Online Harms Act, designed to make social media platformers safe, is being slammed as Orwellian and overreach by voters. Some say it's like a page or a scene from Minority Report. I mean, your take on Trudeau's latest here?
I think I've been pretty consistent in my, and I want to choose my words carefully here, because I want to be supportive of Canada. I'm a big believer in its potential. And I'll say it again, when you look at the per capita of Canada, 37 million people, and you look at the natural resources the country has, per capita, it's one of the richest countries on earth, run by complete idiots. And there's no other way to put it. You might as well tell the truth. It's so important that Justin Trudeau be thanked for his service and then removed from office. And an election will be coming in the next 18 months. He is the worst manager Canada has ever had. Total incompetency underneath him in the cabinet seats. Total incompetency in almost every mandate. Absolutely the worst I've ever seen. The very, very, very worst. And I think the Canadian people are starting to see how horrific this management team is. And it's very important. And listen, he's been a wildly successful politician. But the derivatives you're talking about are part of this complete incompetency of managing Canada's biggest business, Canada itself. This is a totally incompetent government from the top down. The worst managers in the country's history.
You just reminded me, Canadian billionaires Pierre Lassonde and Frank Giustra have been vocal with a huge media campaign urging the Fed, saying they have to force pensions to fund Canadian mining, saying they're more invested in China than in Canada itself. What do you make of that? Should the pension funds be invested in one of Canada's greatest resources, mining?
They can't get anything done. That's the problem. It's not just Canadian pension plans, it's sovereign wealth funds from all around the world. I'm in the business of building data centers because we need data centers all around the world because of the advance of AI. We've only got 8% of what we need. An AI data center is a $3.6 billion project, 100 megawatts. Canada should have at least 5 of them. There are none of them going on right now because you can't get energy permits. That's controlled by Trudeau's government. And so you don't even try. You wouldn't even waste your time trying to go through the regulatory process of getting a permit issued. There's nothing going to happen in Canada till Trudeau's gone. No one is going to risk capital there. You cannot get anything done in Canada, not in mining, not in data centers, not in anything to do with the federal government. They are the worst managers on earth. They are crippling the Canadian economy with mismanagement. Look at any measure you have during Trudeau's tenure. It just gets worse every single year. It's so important that he be swapped out. It's just the most important thing Canadians can do. They could vote for anybody else and do better. Anybody else.
I think he's come to the realization his time may be limited. I watched a recent interview he did with Radio-Canada where he basically said, you know, it's just been a crazy life for him. That was his quote. But anywho.
There you have it. Kevin O'Leary Kevin O'Leary ripping Justin Trudeau. It's just so funny because he just keeps saying it over and over. He calls him an idiot. He is an idiot. Justin Trudeau is an idiot. And he is the worst manager of Canada ever in history. And that probably won't be trumped ever. Ever. No one's going to beat his record. No one could be worse than Justin Trudeau. Next up on X here, we've got a clip which I can't even believe this stuff anymore. Justin Trudeau pledges $8.4 million of our tax dollars to research the democratic decline due to climate change. And this here, we're not going to say that.
2024 will be the biggest election year in history, with countries representing more than half the world's population going to the polls. Unfortunately, many of these elections are unlikely to meet the criteria of what academic experts would view as free and fair. In Russia, the recent presidential election was stacked in favor of the current leader. But for those of us who do run free and fair elections, we have to continue our work to improve our democracies. For example, earlier today, discussions around the importance of inclusion and youth empowerment will hopefully lead to more young people participating in their communities and countries. We're all facing a series of challenges, new and old. We're still reeling from a pandemic that put immense pressure on our democracies. We're seeing growing distrust of government and media and increased polarization exacerbated by misinformation and disinformation. We're dealing with insecurity caused by armed conflicts and climate change. So today, I'm announcing that Canada is investing $8.4 million on research across the global south to better understand how climate change interacts with democratic decline. These initiatives will also help protect the human rights of environmental defenders. On top of the uncertainty caused by different crises, we're also seeing direct threats to individuals globally through transnational repression. This is why Canada is increasing and expanding its funding for Access Now to ensure human rights defenders and others facing digital threats have the resources they need to protect themselves.
Unbelievable. People are sleeping on the streets and this man spends our money on that. That's just absolutely ridiculous. What's interesting too, it's come out that Joe Biden and the Democrats in America have offered, or they have, I think they've actually paid TikTok influencers up to $200,000 to promote the Democratic Party in America. And there's numerous people that were getting offers. One guy, he just said, he threw out a random number. He didn't want to do it. He said he wouldn't do it. They said, kept on coming back, telling him, well, how much? He said, 50,000. They said, sure. And it's just like unbelievable that they're trying to pay people on TikTok to try to sway people's perceptions down there. Because Sleepy Joe Biden, I mean, I don't even know how that party, why would you have a guy who is clearly senile and is not able, he's not a strong, powerful leader. He's not a leader. He's not the guy who's at the front of the tribe who can take on the lion. He's the guy in the back who's sleeping in the bed. Like, why wouldn't they get someone new in there? Anyways, so it seems this is a big thing that's going on. They're trying to use social media to sway opinions of the public because they don't like what they're getting. In Canada, it's much easier. All you have to do is pay off the CBC and CTV. Down in America, they have way more news media. It's a better route to go, and the only route to go is really to try to sway people through TikTok and Instagram, etc. So next up, we got Mark Miller here, our loser immigration minister, is now planning to cut temporary residence by 20% over 3 years. So he's taking my advice, but he's not doing it far enough. This is a softball loser approach. You need to go in hard to fix this because you guys increased it at a drastic rate. Immigration and temporary residents, temporary foreign workers, all that. You guys pushed it way up. You have to go back the other direction hard to fix the problem. Apparently, the federal government has been consulting with poverty experts and food banks to ensure Canadians continue to have the best quality of life.
Meeting with poverty reduction experts, affordability researchers, food banks to ask them, what are your priorities for budget 2024? How can we continue to be there for Canadians? How can we continue to make sure that Canadians continue having the best quality of life in the world? Serious.
The best quality of life. You hear this guy? There's another zinger up here. We go up here. This one's great too.
We know that climate change is real, that we have an obligation to lower our emissions, and since 2015, we have.
Paraphrasing you correctly, you're saying Canada is the only country in the G7 that hasn't reduced our emissions since 1990? Is that correct?
Yes, so the blue on this graph are emissions since 1990. This is the origin line, 0. Canada is the only one that has not reduced emissions since 1990.
So what do you make of, I guess, Minister Guilbeault, the Environment Minister, when he often says that Canada has the best emissions reduction in the G7 since 2015? What do you make of a statement like that?
Yeah, so this is every year's data, right? And you can pick particular points, and especially if you include a section of COVID, which Environment Canada has been doing lately, to show drops. There have been drops and so on, but the fact remains is that we're much higher now than when we started in 1990.
We know that climate change is real.
This stuff is just so funny. Next clip here is just ridiculous. NDP climate critic says Canada is in crisis and the record forest fires is proof of our climate burning. Okay, we're doing this again. This time it's with BC because this is the NDP, I think she's from Victoria area, just south on Vancouver Island here. I don't know why all the fools in Victoria voted her in, but here we go. So I showed you guys the Alberta chart the other day. 62% was started by humans. Here, people is the same as human caused, lightning and unknown. This is forest fires from 2023. This has got to be at least 70%. This is bigger than in Alberta. 70% of people are what's the cause of forest fires. So if we want to have a new law where if you start a forest fire and caught, you get 15 years in jail, maybe this number would go down, but our government's too stupid to do something as bold as that. Now let's listen to this fool.
Canadians know that we are in a climate emergency. They are feeling the impacts. Wildfires have ravaged our country. It means that not only are communities evacuated from their homes, but just this week, a young child in Edmonton described breathing the air as it feels like an elephant is sitting on my chest. We are witnessing extreme weather, horrific pollution. This is our day-to-day life. Hundreds of people died in the heat domes in British Columbia.
Okay, enough of this. If you want to be taken serious, you actually have to look at the data and then act on that. Most of the focus should be putting these people behind bars. Like, let's get real here. I've lived in BC for 20 years. If they want to take this serious, we need to address the rampant clear-cut logging that's going on that leaves huge dry patches all around towns and cities. Why not thin the forests, have them retain more moisture, and thus the risk of forest fires goes down drastically? I can prove this too. Let's just look at it. We always get these members of parliament who are barking stuff and they got no bite. They got nothing to back it up. And meanwhile, like, I'm just some knucklehead, and why can I easily point this stuff out? See this? This is a forest fire. This blocked this entire road. Now, I live over here, And you can't, if you live here or if you live, the road goes all the way down to Tofino here or in Ucluelet, anyone on this side cannot get back to civilization if this road is blocked. And this road was blocked for like months, like 2 or 3 months because of this forest fire. If we look at the fire, it is almost exactly matched to this clear cut. So you can see here the logging cut edge. This is all dry forest. This is all bone dry because they didn't thin the forest. They do these ugly straight lines, and thus all of this is a big burn hazard. And if you look at the forest fire, it burned exactly where all that dry forest is. It moved down here, but where did it move down to? This is an area where they likely heli-log this. So they go and chop the biggest trees out, and then they drop them back here, and then they cut them up and put them on the trucks or whatever. So the fire moved its way down into little patches here. But basically, if you look, it didn't go to the forest here that isn't logged, because this maintains moisture, lots of moisture. That's all we need. We need to not have these big ugly cuts. These are big fire hazards to destroy communities and towns. Why are the boneheads in government not saying anything about this? These should all be faded forests. They should look like this, where say this was the clear cut here, and then they turned it into faded forest where there's different patches here, and it's just all faded in nicely. This will maintain the moisture much better than those big ugly clear cuts. I had to go all the way to Alberta to find a nice because you won't find that on Vancouver Island. It's quite literally just huge swaths. So I mean, just imagine a fire starts here, that jumps to this, and kaboom, this burns all the way to town and just burns this whole place down. This is too much. This is way too many clear cuts. Nothing's faded, big ugly. Finally, over on my Facebook group here, it's become meme central. Look, this is the ShamWow guy. You remember that guy? What's his name? Vince Offer? Carbon tax makes weather gooder. Scam. Wow. This is great. It's just meme central over here. This is awesome. I want to make one of these stickers. I can't because it would be copyright infringed, but Canadians tired of Trudeau.
Greta, where did you learn everything you know about things like climate change? Where did you learn all that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I knew.
So if you wish you knew, how do you know so much? Surely if you know so much, you would know where you learned all this from, surely?
Who has said that I know so much?
Well, because you are deemed as an expert worldwide when it comes to climate change. You speak on global stages when it comes to climate change, and ultimately some of the things you say lead global policy.
If that was the case, then the world would look completely different, I assure you.
What would you like to do to make the world look completely different? That's a fair question, surely?
First, I would like to eat lunch, maybe.
That's a good point, because I mean, like, she became the voice of it, but when she was like 10 or 12 or whatever, and it's like, yo, this girl doesn't have any experience doing anything. That awkward moment when a zombie looking for brains and walks right by you. Yeah, keep them coming. I like the memes here. It's nice and light. Keeps it fun. That's where we wrap up today's episode. Thanks for stopping by and watching. If you want to check out some merch, just link up down below, as well as the FB group and my X account. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys on the next one.